A billionaire found a lost, sad child in the park. When he rescued her, he learned her mother was gravely ill. Deeply moved, he decided to... As I walked down the lively streets of downtown San Diego, my success weighed on me like a heavy coat I couldn't shake off. My custom suit clung close, a constant reminder of the empire I'd built from scratch. Around me, the city buzzed, towering buildings, sleek cars, and the hum of people on the go. Yet, despite the luxury and achievement, an unsettling emptiness gnawed at me. It felt like a contradiction. I had everything a person could want, yet I lacked any true direction. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the park I'd wandered into. I'd always found some comfort in nature amid the urban sprawl, a quick break from the grind of meetings, deals, and quarterly reports. But today, the colors of the flowers and the laughter of kids in the park felt like they belonged in another world, separate from mine. It was like I was in a movie, watching from another room, stuck in my own thoughts. As I walked down the winding path, my mind drifted back to the achievements, the champagne toasts, and the endless cycle of meetings and plans. Was this all there was to life? Suddenly, a soft, heartbreaking sound pulled me back to reality. I looked over and saw a little girl sitting on a nearby bench, her small shoulders trembling as she cried silently. A pang of concern rose up in me, and without overthinking it, I walked over. "Hey there," I said, gently, kneeling down to her level. "What's wrong?" She looked up, her big, tear-filled eyes meeting mine. I can't find my mum," she whispered, her voice shaking. My heart twisted, seeing her so lost and afraid. "What's your name?" I asked. "Judy," she replied, wiping her nose with the back of her hand, a gesture that hit me right in the heart. I was playing, and then... she was gone. "All right, Judy, don't worry," I assured her. "We'll find your mum together." I gave her a comforting smile, even though I could feel a strange unease churning inside me. "Promise?" she asked, her voice wavering. "Promise," I replied confidently, pushing away the doubts creeping into my mind. Leaving her here, lost and helpless, wasn't an option. I'd handled all kinds of challenges in my life, but this was different. This was a child in need. And for the first time in ages, I felt a pull to step beyond the comfortable world of wealth and ease I was used to. "Can you describe what your mum looks like?" I asked, sitting down beside her on the bench, hoping to ease her tears. Judy's face brightened a bit as she nodded, sadness momentarily fading. "She has pretty brown hair and a blue dress, and she always wears a silver necklace with a heart on it." "All right, let's look for her. Do you remember where you last saw her?" I asked, my mind racing to piece together a plan. "I think she was near the swings," Judy replied, her small face scrunching up as she tried to remember. "Then that's where we'll go," I said with renewed resolve. I stood up and held my hand out to her. "Would you like to hold my hand as we walk? It'll make it easier for both of us." She hesitated, then slipped her tiny hand into mine, her fingers fitting snugly. As we walked, I felt the weight of responsibility settle on me. I was a billionaire, used to getting my way, but this was different. This was about a little girl who'd lost her mom, and I couldn't ignore the drive to help her. "Do you come to this park a lot?" I asked, trying to keep her calm. "Sometimes," she said, glancing up. "I like the swings and the slide, but I always come with my mum. She says it's fun to play together." My heart ached thinking of her mum, likely out there, worried, sick. "I'm sure she's looking for you right now," I reassured her as we reached the swings. I scanned the area, hoping to spot someone who might be her mum. "Do you see her anywhere?" I asked, crouching down to Judy's level. She shook her head, worry clouding her face again. "No. What if she can't find me?" "We're not going to think that way," I said firmly. "We'll keep searching, okay?" I tried to encourage her, hoping to boost her spirits. "Let's check the playground, and then we can ask around if anyone's seen her." Judy relaxed a little, nodding as she took comfort in the plan. "All right," she replied, her voice growing a bit steadier. As we continued searching, I felt an unexpected surge of protectiveness for this young girl I'd just met. I'd been so wrapped up in chasing my own goals, relentlessly sealing deals and amassing influence, that I drifted from what really mattered. Here I was, standing on the edge of something that felt like it could change more than just my afternoon, maybe my whole outlook. "Look," Judy exclaimed, pointing toward a group of kids playing in a sandbox nearby. "Maybe they've seen my mum." We walked over, and I leaned down to ask one of the nearby parents. "Excuse me," I began, doing my best to keep my voice calm. "Have you seen a woman with brown hair wearing a blue dress? She's looking for her daughter." The parents shook their heads, concern reflecting in their gaze. "Sorry, I haven't seen anyone like that." Judy's shoulders drooped, disappointment clouding her face. "What if we don't find her?" she murmured, fear creeping into her voice. "We will. I promise." I felt a new sense of determination take hold of me. "Let's keep looking. Sometimes the most unexpected moments lead us to what we need most." We wandered through the park, passing by kids laughing and adults chatting, but my attention remained on Judy. Her well-being and her mother's safety became my focus, pushing aside my usual worries. The park seemed endless, and I started to feel like this small act of kindness was guiding me somewhere significant. Just as discouragement began to settle in, a thought crossed my mind. What if we ask for help? There are plenty of people who might lend us a hand. Judy's curiosity sparked. "Like who?" she asked. "We could talk to a park ranger. They know the area well and might have seen your mom," I suggested, feeling a glimmer of hope. "Okay, let's try that," she agreed, a hint of hope brightening her face. Hand in hand, we headed for the park's entrance, where a ranger was chatting with a couple. As we approached, the ranger's uniform and badge caught the sunlight, a reassuring sign of authority and assistance. I cleared my throat to get his attention. "Excuse me," I said. "My name is Christopher Warburton, and this is Judy. She's lost her mother, and we hoped you could help us find her." The ranger's relaxed demeanor shifted to one of focus as he kneeled down to Judy's level. "Hey, Judy, can you describe your mum for me?" I asked gently. As Judy shared her description, a sense of hope sparked in me. Somewhere in this big park, a worried mother was desperately searching for her daughter, and I was determined to help bring them back together. I hadn't realized it then, but this simple moment would herald the start of a journey that would push me to rethink everything I knew about purpose, success, and the true impact of kindness. As we wandered through the park, Judy's small hand held firmly in mine. I felt a renewed sense of drive. The sun was setting, casting warm golden rays over the winding paths. I had a real purpose now, finding her mother, Shirley. I wasn't just a wealthy man living a hollow life. I was someone with a mission. Judy's tiny hand fit snugly in mine, grounding me in a way I hadn't felt before. "Do you think we'll find my mum soon?" Judy asked, her voice soft, a hint of worry in her tone. "Absolutely we will," I replied, doing my best to sound comforting. "We'll just keep asking around." I promised her we wouldn't stop until her mum was found. She looked up, her big, innocent eyes filled with a mixture of hope and anxiety. If only I could take away all her fears and wrap her in pure safety and warmth. Yet, despite all my wealth, I was the one who felt unsteady. As we turned a corner, I noticed a park ranger nearby, His uniform was crisp, his badge catching the last light of the day. "Excuse me," I said, keeping my voice steady but urgent. "This little girl is lost, and we're trying to find her mother, Shirley. Is there anything you can do to help?" The ranger looked at Judy, his face softening with compassion. "Of course I can help," he replied. He leaned down toward Judy. "Can you tell me about your mum, sweetheart?" Judy nodded, her face brightening a little at the chance to describe her mother. "She has long brown hair and wears a blue jacket. She told me to wait right here, but I got scared." The ranger took notes, nodding thoughtfully. "That's very helpful. I'll send out an alert. But we may need her address." Judy's face fell as she shook her head. "I don't know it. I just remember we live near a hospital." The ranger looked over at me, brows furrowed. "I'll check the local hospitals. If she's near one, we might be able to find her." "Thank you," I said, a wave of gratitude rising within me. It was the first time I truly felt connected to something larger than myself. "Please, we have to find her." As the ranger took out his radio, I looked over at Judy, her worry plain on her face. I kneeled beside her, meeting her gaze. "Hey, you're really brave, you know that? We're going to find your mum. She's going to be so happy to see you." Judy's lip quivered, but she managed a nod. "Do you think she's scared?" "I think she's worried about you," I replied, feeling a pang in my heart. "But we'll make sure she knows you're safe." "You're doing amazing." The ranger finished his call and turned to us. "I've contacted the nearest hospital. They're going to check for any patients under the name Shirley. Why don't you stay here for a bit? I'll be back with more info." I nodded, then kneeled beside Judy again. "While we wait, want to tell me about your teddy bear?" She looked down at her beloved stuffed animal, her face lighting up just a bit. "This is Mr. Cuddles. He always helps me when I'm feeling sad." "Mr. Cuddles sounds like an awesome friend," I said with a smile. "What adventures do you two go on?" "Sometimes we go to space," she said, confidence returning. "We fight monsters and save princesses." Just then, the ranger returned, his face somber. "I have some news. Shirley is indeed at the hospital. She's been admitted and is in serious condition. They're asking for family to be there as soon as possible." My heart dropped. "What's going on with her?" "I don't have all the specifics," the ranger replied, "but they mention she needs urgent treatment. It's serious." I stood still, the weight of his words sinking in. I glanced at Judy, her wide eyes full of fear. "Judy, we need to get to the hospital right away," I said, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. "Your mum needs us." "Is she going to be okay?" Her voice shook, tears brimming in her eyes. "I'll do everything I can to make sure she is," I promised, feeling a deep sense of responsibility. "Let's go find her." We moved quickly through the park, the world around me blurring as my mind raced. I was no longer just a businessman. I was someone who could make a real difference. A surge of adrenaline rushed through me as I thought about how I could help Shirley. When I got to the hospital, the strong antiseptic smell hit me right away, and the bright lights felt jarring after the gentle glow of the park. I led Judy inside, and together we approached the front desk. The nurse looked up, her expression shifting to concern when she noticed Judy. "We're here to see Shirley," I said, my voice tight with urgency. "Her last name's Warburton." The nurse nodded and quickly checked her computer. "Yes, she's in room 204, she confirmed. "Follow me." As we made our way through the stark hallways, I could feel Judy's little hand trembling in mine. I looked down at her, hoping to offer some comfort. "You're so brave, Judy. We're almost there." She looked up at me, her voice barely audible. "What's wrong with my mum?" she asked. "I'm not sure yet, but the doctors are going to take really good care of her," I replied, though uncertainty weighed heavily on me. We stopped outside room 204, and the nurse turned to us. "You can go in now, but just so you know, she might be a bit drowsy from the meds." "Thank you," I said, and opened the door, my heart pounding. Inside, Shirley lay on the bed, her face pale, her body frail. The soft beeping of machines filled the room, underscoring the battle she was fighting. I felt a lump in my throat as I stepped closer, Judy right behind me. "Mum," she called, her voice cracking. At the sound, Shirley's eyes slowly opened. She looked disoriented at first, but as her gaze settled on Judy, her expression softened. "Judy. Oh, my sweet girl," she murmured. Tears ran down Judy's cheeks as she climbed onto the bed and wrapped her little arms around Shirley. "I was so scared. I thought I lost you." "I'm here, baby. I'm here," Shirley whispered, her voice soft but full of love. "I'm so sorry you had to worry." I stood back, feeling like an intruder on this deeply personal moment. But then Shirley turned her eyes to me, and I took a step forward, finding my resolve. "Shirley, I'm Christopher," I said, my voice steady. "I found Judy in the park. She was looking for you." "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I didn't want her to be afraid." "She's incredibly brave," I replied, glancing between them. "I want to help. I know you need treatment, and I'm here to make sure you get the care you deserve." Shirley's eyes widened, a mixture of surprise and gratitude in her gaze. "You don't have to do this," she began, but I interrupted softly. "I want to. Please, let me help. You and Judy shouldn't have to go through this alone." As I spoke, an unexpected sense of responsibility settled over me. I wasn't just a businessman anymore. I was someone who could truly impact another person's life. For the first time, a flicker of purpose sparked within me. As I walked into the quiet hospital room, the sterile smell of antiseptics and the faint hum of machines filled the air. My heart raced as I approached Shirley's bed. She lay there, frail and pale, her breathing shallow. I had arranged her treatment, but now, standing here, the full weight of my actions sank in. "Shirley," I said gently, not wanting to alarm her. "It's Christopher Warburton. You may not remember, but I'm the one who found Judy in the park." Her eyes fluttered open, confusion crossing her face until recognition dawned, followed by disbelief. "Christopher? What are you doing here?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm here to help you," I said, keeping my tone calm and reassuring. "You're going to get the care you need. I've taken care of everything." She frowned, shaking her head slightly. "I don't understand. Why would you do this for me? I'm just..." "Nobody. No one is nobody," I replied, my tone firm yet warm. "You're a mother, and you deserve to be healthy for Judy." Tears welled in her eyes, and for a moment I worried. It was too much. But she blinked them away, managing a faint smile. "I don't know how to thank you. It's more than I could ever hope for." "Just focus on getting better," I insisted, brushing off her gratitude. "There'll be time to thank me later. Right now, you need to rest." As I left her room, a complex blend of emotions stirred inside me, leaving me deeply moved in a way I hadn't anticipated. In the business world, I was accustomed to wielding power and control. But here, facing the reality of someone's life hanging in the balance, I felt powerless. I couldn't solve every problem, but I could at least give her a fighting chance. The following day, I went back to the hospital, eager to check on Shirley, and even more so, on Judy. As I walked into the room, Shirley was sitting up in bed, looking slightly better, with a bit more color in her face. A nurse was adjusting her IV, and when she saw me approach, Shirley managed a small, tired smile. "How are you feeling today?" I asked, genuinely concerned. "A little better, I think," she replied, her voice faint, but a bit stronger. "At least the pain is under control. I can't believe you came back." "Of course I did. I said I'd help you and Judy." Just then, the door swung open, and Judy burst in, her energy filling the room. "Mr. Christopher," she exclaimed, her face lighting up, "I brought something for you." She held out a crumpled piece of paper, her little hands shaking with excitement. I took it, carefully unfolding the drawing. It showed a park, with stick figures of me and Judy, surrounded by a rainbow and flowers. "This is us," she said proudly. "You helped me find my mommy." A warmth filled me as I looked at her artwork. "It's wonderful, Judy," I said with a smile. "I'll hang it up in my office." Shirley watched us, tears brimming in her eyes, an expression of gratitude and sadness on her face. "You're reheraldable, Christopher," she whispered. "I can't believe how much you care about us." I shrugged slightly. "I'm just doing what anyone would," though I knew that wasn't entirely true. My life had revolved around profits and numbers, but now I was discovering something far more meaningful. As Judy climbed onto the bed to sit next to her mother, a strong sense of protectiveness washed over me. "I'll be here for both of you," I promised, my voice firm. "Whatever you need, just let me know." "Thank you," Shirley murmured, her voice choked with emotion. "You've already given us so much. I don't know how I'll ever repay you." I reassured her, "Just concentrate on getting well," so she wouldn't feel any debt. Over the next few days, I found myself spending more time at the hospital than I'd planned, watching as Shirley began her treatment. With each passing day, it seemed like she was gaining a bit more strength. In the corporate world, I was accustomed to wielding influence and authority, but here, faced with life and death, I felt completely out of my depth. I couldn't solve everything, yet I could make sure she had the chance to keep going. The next day, I went back to the hospital, eager to check in on Shirley and, just as much, on Judy. Walking into her room, I saw Shirley sitting up, looking a bit more lively, her face showing a hint of color. A nurse was adjusting her IV drip, and as I stepped closer, she gave me a faint smile. "How are you feeling today?" I asked, genuinely concerned. "Better, I think," she replied, her voice still soft, but with a touch more strength. "At least the pain's not too bad. I'm surprised you came back." "Of course I did. I promised I'd help you and Judy." Right then, the door swung open, and Judy bounced in, brimming with excitement. "Mr. Christopher," she said, her face lighting up. "I brought something for you." She held out a crumpled piece of paper, her little hands trembling with enthusiasm. I took the paper and carefully unfolded it. It was a drawing of a park, with stick figures of her and me, surrounded by a rainbow and flowers. "This is us," she said proudly. "You helped me find my mommy." I felt a warmth settle over me. "It's beautiful, Judy," I said, smiling. "I'll hang this up in my office." Shirley watched us, her eyes misty with gratitude and sadness. "You're incredible, Christopher. I can't believe how much you care about us," she added. "I'm just doing what anyone would," I replied, though deep down, I knew it was more than that. My world had been all about profits and results, but now I was finding something far richer. As Judy climbed onto the bed beside her mum, a wave of protectiveness washed over me. "I'll be here for both of you," I said with steady resolve. "Whatever you need, you just let me know." "Thank you," Shirley whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "You've already done so much. I can't imagine how I'll ever repay you." "Just focus on getting better," I said, not wanting her to worry about paying me back. Over the following days, I found myself at the hospital more often than I'd planned. I watched as Shirley started her treatment, and with each new day, she seemed to regain a little more of her strength. I can't return to juggling 2 jobs anymore. I need to be there for Judy, and the thought of not being able to support her terrifies me. "Let me help," I offered, barely thinking before the words slipped out. "I can help you find a job that aligns with your needs. There are plenty of options out there," I assured. She looked at me, eyes searching deeply. "But why?" "You don't owe me anything, you've already done so much." "Because I want to," I replied, my tone steady and sure. "You and Judy deserve a secure, stable life, and if I can contribute to that, I will. We're in this together." She held my gaze for a moment, before a single tear escaped down her cheek. "You're a truly kind man, Christopher. I never imagined someone like you would come into our lives," she said. I felt a swell of emotion as I replied, "It's not about being kind. It's about being human." In that moment, I realized my life had changed in ways I hadn't expected. I was no longer just a wealthy man with an empty life. I was part of a family, their joys, challenges, and dreams woven into my own. I was learning that real wealth isn't about money, but about compassion, connection, and the profound impact we have on each other's lives. Standing in the busy office of my financial advisor, I looked out at the city, stretched beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, the sun glinting off the high-rise buildings. Yet I felt only urgency. Setting up the scholarship fund for Judy wasn't just a financial decision. It was a commitment, a promise to do everything in my power to make sure her future was brighter than her past. "Are you certain about this, Christopher?" my advisor asked, his brow creased as he examined the figures on his tablet. "You're dedicating a considerable sum for one child," I replied, surprised at the volume of my own voice. "Yes, I'm sure. Judy deserves the best education available. If I can use my resources for something that truly matters, then I will. She's been through enough." My advisor nodded, though I sensed some hesitation lingering. "All right, we'll establish a trust that covers her schooling and extra costs. It's a meaningful investment in her future." "Do it," I said, my heart racing as I made a decision that felt undeniably right. I could almost picture Judy's laughter in the corners of my mind. A sound so joyful, it was starting to bring light into my once lonely days. The next morning, I found myself back at the hospital, that familiar antiseptic smell filling the air as I made my way to Shirley's room. Sunlight poured through the window, casting a soft glow on her pale face, which lay nestled in a heap of pillows, her features a mix of exhaustion and relief. Seeing her like this, a fighter waging her own battle, was both heartbreaking and uplifting. She stood tall, even amidst the hum of the medical machines surrounding her. "You're back," she greeted softly. "I wouldn't be anywhere else," I replied, a smile breaking through the heaviness I felt. "I have something important to share with you." Shirley's eyes widened, a spark of curiosity brightening her expression. "What is it? Did you manage to get my treatment approved?" I hesitated, feeling the weight of my next words. "In a way, yes. I've set up a scholarship fund for Judy. I want to make sure she has the chance for a bright future. A solid education," I continued. Her gaze softened, and I could see the tears welling up in her eyes. "Christopher, you didn't have to—" "I can't accept this." "Please, Shirley," I interrupted, my tone gentle. "Don't worry about anything. You focus on getting well. I'll handle Judy's future." She looked at me, her expression caught between gratitude and disbelief. "You're serious, aren't you? You're not just saying this out of pity." I shook my head, feeling a warmth grow in my chest. "No, it's not pity. I'm serious. You and Judy, You've both brought so much into my life that I can't even put into words. I want to be here. For you both." A thick silence followed, filled with emotions we didn't need to say aloud. Finally she spoke, her voice filled with raw sincerity. "Christopher, you've already done so much. I don't know where I'd be without you. Thank you." We shared a moment of understanding, a connection shaped by struggle and kindness, and for the first time in ages, I felt a glimmer of contentment. My heart felt lighter as I left her room because of the choice I had made. At last, I felt like I was doing something meaningful. But I knew Shirley's journey was far from over. Though I could support her, the real fight was hers alone. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. I met with the school staff, laid out the plans for the scholarship program, and even organized tutoring support to help Judy catch up in her classes. Each step forward gave me a renewed sense of purpose, making my commitment to them feel all the more real. One afternoon, I found myself at a cozy cafe near the hospital, holding a warm cup of coffee, when I suddenly heard a familiar voice call out, "Mr. Warburton!" It was Judy, her face lighting up with excitement as she ran over, her small backpack bouncing on her shoulders. "Hey there, superstar," I greeted, my heart lifting at her enthusiasm. "What brings you here?" "I came to see Mommy," she replied, her eyes bright with innocence. "And then I spotted you." "Are we going to the park again?" she asked, bringing back memories of our previous outings. I laughed. "Of course, but first I have some special news to share." Her eyes grew even wider, leaning in closer with curiosity. "What is it?" "I've set up a scholarship fund just for you," I told her, watching her expression shift from confusion to pure excitement. "You're going to have a chance to attend a fantastic school, and I'll make sure you have everything you need to do your best." "Really?" she gasped, her mouth forming a surprised O. "You're not kidding?" "Not kidding at all," I chuckled at her astonishment. "You'll get to learn so much, make new friends, and explore everything you love." Her face broke into a radiant smile as she jumped up and down, unable to contain her excitement. "Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't wait to tell Mommy." "Let's get you back to her," I said, smiling as we headed to the hospital together. Her joy was contagious, and I felt a kind of fulfillment I hadn't experienced before. I realized that being part of her journey meant more than any personal achievement ever had. Later that evening, I went back to Shirley's room. She was sitting up in bed, a bit of color returning to her cheeks. "Judy told me about the scholarship," she said warmly. "You really did that for her?" "I did," I replied, my heart full of pride. "She deserves every chance, Shirley. You both do." Shirley took my hand, holding it tightly. "You have no idea what this means to us. You've given us hope when we needed it most." "It's my pleasure," I assured her, sensing a meaningful connection forming between us. I had seen her struggles and felt a strong urge to support her. As we talked, we traded stories about our past lives before this unexpected chapter unfolded. Shirley's laughter filled the space as she shared funny tales about Judy's mischiefs, and I found myself revealing the loneliness that seemed to go hand in hand with my success. "Sometimes it feels like money has built walls instead of bridges," I admitted. "I thought it would bring joy, but it's only left me feeling empty." Shirley nodded, her gaze filled with empathy. "I get that. Sometimes it takes a situation like this to remind us what truly counts: love, family, kindness." Her words struck a chord deep within me. It was as if I finally understood that my resources could be used to connect, not isolate. At that moment, my phone vibrated in my pocket, interrupting our conversation. I glanced at the caller ID and felt a rush of tension. It was my business partner. "I need to take this," I said reluctantly, standing and stepping toward the hallway. "Sure," Shirley replied, her smile dimming a bit. "We'll catch up later." "Of course," I assured her, though I could feel the knot tightening in my stomach. I picked up the call, my heart racing as my partner's words hit me, revealing the weight of the situation. Standing in my office overlooking the sprawling San Diego skyline as the evening faded, my mind swirled with emotions, torn between the demands of my career and the commitment I'd made to Shirley and Judy. It felt like the world was pressing down on my shoulders. I'd always managed to keep the parts of my life separate, but now they seemed to be colliding into a storm of stress and uncertainty. "Christopher," my assistant Shirley knocked lightly and stepped in, concern clear on her face. "You have a meeting in 15 minutes. Are you ready?" I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "I need a moment, Shirley. Can you reschedule?" "Of course," she replied, though there was a trace of worry in her eyes. "But, are you all right? You seem a bit off these days." I forced a smile, even though it felt strained. "Just a lot to handle. I'll be okay." She nodded, though she didn't look convinced. As she left, I leaned against the glass wall, watching the city lights start to sparkle like stars. My thoughts returned to Shirley and Judy, their faces vivid in my mind. I had made a promise to support them through this difficult time, but I questioned whether I could truly make a difference. My wealth had always served as a shield, keeping me insulated, but now it felt like a weight, a constant reminder of the divide between my life and theirs. With a sigh, I turned back to my desk, where files and reports lay scattered, as if waging their own war. Suddenly, my phone buzzed, snapping me out of my thoughts. It was a text from Shirley, the one in the hospital. "Thank you for being there for us. Judy is so happy to have you in her life." A smile crept across my face as I read her message, a warm feeling spreading in my chest. I quickly typed back, "You're the one doing all the heavy lifting. Just focus on getting well. I'm here for both of you." No sooner had I sent it than another notification came through, this time from my business partner, Harold. "We need to talk. Urgent." The message hit me like a splash of cold water, sending a ripple of anxiety through me. Harold had been a steady presence through every high and low, yet recently there was something different about him. He seemed more distant, caught up in something that kept slipping out of my reach. I took a deep breath, trying to shake off the nervous energy simmering under the surface. "Let's get this over with," I muttered, dialing his number. He picked up quickly. "Christopher," he said, his voice clipped. "Can you meet me at the downtown office? We need to talk." "On my way," I replied, already heading for the door. The weight of everything I was juggling, supporting Shirley and Judy, managing the turmoil at work, pressed down harder with every step. The drive felt endless, every streetlight and corner stretching my tension further. When I finally arrived, I found Harold pacing, looking like he was wound too tight. "Christopher, we've got a serious issue," he said without waiting, his face strained. "What's going on?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "It's about the merger with Sanderson Industries," he started, glancing away. "I just found out they've been working with a competitor to undercut us." A chill went through me. "What? How?" "Rumor has it they're leaking our plans to sabotage our deals. I think someone on the inside is helping them," he said, his voice laced with worry. A surge of betrayal hit me hard. "Who?" I demanded, my voice rising, barely containing my anger. "Not certain yet, but I have my suspicions," he responded, his gaze finally meeting mine, a flicker of fear visible in his eyes. "Are you positive about this?" "I thought Sanderson and we were on solid ground," I replied, struggling to take in the full weight of his words. "We were," he nodded. "But things aren't what they seem. "You've got to trust me on this," he said, his voice tinged with urgency. That word, trust, hung in the air between us, fragile as a single thread. "Harold, you know I've always trusted you. But if there's something you're hiding, if you're tied up in this—" "Christopher, no!" he cut me off. "I'd never betray you." "We built this company side by side," he said, clearly frustrated. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision before us. "All right then. Let's figure out who's behind this. We can't let them tear down everything we've worked so hard for." We dived into a tense discussion on strategies and countermeasures, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, like a storm brewing just out of sight. Harold's recent behavior, those whispers of disloyalty, it all felt ominous. After an exhausting hour, I left the office, my mind racing. I needed a way to separate the strain at work from my personal life. Pulling out my phone, I scrolled through recent photos of Shirley and Judy, their happy smiles so far removed from the chaos back at the office. I wanted to be there for them, but how could I do that while facing betrayal at work? Driving to the hospital, my heart pounded as I neared Shirley's room. I knocked softly, my pulse quickening with a mix of nerves and anticipation. "Come in," her voice called warmly from inside, despite the circumstances. I stepped in, and the sight of her lying in bed pulled at my heartstrings. Judy was perched beside her, a brightly colored book open in her hands, her face lighting up as she spotted me. "Mr. Warburton," she cried, bouncing up. "You came to see us." "Of course I did. How could I stay away?" I replied, crouching down to her level. "What's the story today?" "It's about a princess and her dragon," she replied, her eyes sparkling. "Want to hear it?" I chuckled, feeling a bit of my tension ease. "Absolutely. I'm all ears." As Judy enthusiastically shared the story, I glanced over at Shirley, who watched us with a gentle smile. Despite her frail state, there was a comforting warmth in her eyes that quieted my anxious thoughts. "Thank you for being here, Christopher," she whispered softly, her voice barely audible. "It means more than you know." "It's my pleasure, Shirley. You both mean so much to me now," I replied, feeling a sense of purpose swell within me. Yet, even as I spoke, my business troubles hovered like a dark cloud, a constant reminder of how unstable my situation was. "Judy, you're doing a wonderful job telling that story," I encouraged, focusing on the moment. "Thank you. When I grow up, I want to be a princess who helps people," she declared, her innocence stirring something deep within me. "Then you'll be the best princess ever," I replied, a newfound hope blooming in my chest. Watching Judy's face light up, I realized my life had taken a path I never expected. Amid the professional chaos, I'd found meaning in my bond with Shirley and Judy. But there was a hard road ahead. I needed to face Harold and discover the truth behind his actions and the betrayal I felt creeping around me. "All right, little princess, let's keep going with that story," I said, eager to stay in Judy's world just a bit longer before facing the reality waiting for me. I clung tenaciously to the conviction that despite the difficulties ahead, I could steer my life back on course in the cozy confines of the hospital room filled with laughter and hope. I would protect Shirley and Judy and somehow find a way to pull my business from the brink. Standing in my office overlooking San Diego's skyline, my mind spun with thoughts. The ordeal with my business partner left me feeling raw and vulnerable. The betrayal cut deep, but something else tugged at me. Shirley's condition. I could still see her frail frame in that hospital bed, her eyes filled with a mix of gratitude and uncertainty. I had promised to help her and care for Judy, but my own life choices weighed heavily on me. Leaning against my desk, I tapped my fingers nervously on its polished surface. My assistant, Janet, entered with a stack of papers. "Mr. Warburton, here are the reports on our competitors' activities, as you requested," she said, her voice steady, though her eyes held a hint of concern. "Thank you, Janet." "Just leave them on the desk," I said absent-mindedly, barely lifting my head to glance in Janet's direction. My mind was a million miles away, drawn back to thoughts of Shirley. It was as though something beyond me was pulling me toward her, urging me to confront the harsh reality she was facing. Then, like a sudden revelation, it all clicked into place. Shirley's illness, the relentless weight of financial troubles, the constant anxiety of raising her child alone. This wasn't just a medical issue. It was a storm of challenges that went far beyond her health, pushing her into a place of isolation and exhaustion. I could no longer see it as a mere string of unfortunate events. I knew I had to step in to find a way to ease the crushing burdens she was carrying alone. Taking a steady breath, I reached for the phone, ready to act. "Janet, could you please call the hospital and ask to speak with Shirley's doctor? I need to review her treatment options," I instructed, trying to keep my voice calm and composed. "Of course," she replied, her brow furrowing with concern. "Is everything all right?" I hesitated for a moment, feeling the weight of everything I intended to do. "I'm working on it," I finally answered, gesturing for her not to worry. I wasn't ready to reveal my doubts, not just yet. A few minutes later, I was on the line with Dr. Warren. "Mr. Warburton, it's good to hear from you. How can I help?" he said, his voice warm and professional. "Doc," I began, trying to steady myself even as my heart raced. "I need to understand more about Shirley's condition, and if possible, I want to know how her financial situation has been impacting her health." There was a slight pause on the other end, a moment that felt like eternity. Stress can have a significant impact on a person's health, especially in Shirley's case, Dr. Warren explained carefully. She has a rare but treatable condition. With the right support, I believe we can give her a real chance at recovery. "Support?" I echoed softly, feeling a faint spark of hope. "What kind of support do you mean?" "We have a program designed to assist families facing financial hardship," Dr. Warren continued. "It covers the costs of treatment for patients in situations like Shirley's. I can arrange for her to be enrolled as soon as possible." "Please do that," I replied, a rush of relief washing over me. "And if there's anything additional, I'll cover it. I want to make sure she gets the best care possible." As I hung up, a new sense of purpose washed over me. Suddenly, the endless demands of my work seemed trivial compared to the lives I could help change. I had the resources. It was time to put them to meaningful use. "Janet, cancel my meetings for the rest of the day," I said firmly, making up my mind. "Certainly, sir," she answered, her voice calm but alert. "Is there anything specific you'd like prioritized?" "Yes," I replied without hesitation. "Set up a meeting with the hospital administration. I want everything to be perfect for Shirley and Judy," I murmured to myself, the conviction in my voice echoing in my mind. As I stepped out of the office, the city's noise and energy pulsed around me, yet I was oblivious, my thoughts focused on a single purpose. I was headed straight to the hospital. I arrived faster than usual, practically flying through the hospital's pristine, brightly lit hallways. The sterile air carried the faint smell of disinfectant as I navigated the maze-like corridors, finally stopping outside Shirley's room. The instant I stepped in, a sense of calm washed over me, grounding me in the moment. "Christopher," Shirley greeted me, her voice barely above a whisper, yet full of relief and surprise. She looked different, healthier somehow. The pallor that had heralded her face seemed to fade, and there was the faintest hint of warmth returning to her skin. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her curiosity genuine but tinged with confusion. "I've got good news," I replied, Unable to keep the smile from spreading across my face, Dr. Warren mentioned a program that might help cover your medical expenses. You won't have to worry about the financial side of things anymore. Her eyes widened, disbelief and gratitude mingling together in her expression. "Are you serious?" she whispered, almost as if she was afraid to believe it. "Absolutely. You deserve the best care, Shirley. I'm here to make sure you and Judy are looked after," I reassured her, feeling the weight of each word sink in as I spoke. Tears gathered in her eyes, glistening as she processed the news. She blinked, struggling to contain her emotions. "You've already done so much for us. I don't even know how to thank you." "You don't have to thank me," I said softly. "Just focus on getting better." In that moment, a connection settled between us, unspoken but deeply felt. We understood each other in a way that transcended circumstances. Just then, the door opened and Judy dashed into the room, her face lighting up when she spotted her mother. "Mommy!" she squealed, running toward Shirley and throwing her little arms around her in a tight hug. "Hey there, sweetheart," Shirley replied, her voice catching with emotion. "Look, I'm okay." She gestured toward me with a warm smile. "I've made a new friend here." Judy turned to look at me, her big eyes full of curiosity and wonder. "Are you my friend too?" she asked, her innocence both disarming and endearing. I kneeled down so I was at her eye level, meeting her gaze directly. "Yes, Judy, I'm here to help you and your mum," I replied, the words leaving me with a newfound sense of purpose. "Are you going to make her all better?" she asked, her small brow furrowing as she looked between us, concern etched in her young face. "I'm going to make sure she gets all the help she needs," I promised, feeling my heart swell at the trust in her voice. In that brief exchange, I felt a sense of responsibility that grounded me even further. Just then, my phone vibrated in my pocket, pulling me from the scene. It was a message from Janet. "We need to discuss your partner's response to the allegations. He's not backing down." I took a deep breath, feeling the tension seep back in, but steadied myself, knowing I had to face whatever lay ahead. This was a fight I was determined not to lose, but the stakes now stretched far beyond business. It was about protecting Shirley and Judy, shielding them not only from financial disaster, but also from the emotional weight of my own past mistakes. I turned to Shirley, my voice steady as I said, "I need to take care of something important. I promise I'll be back soon." She looked at me, her eyes filled with a quiet, searching hope. "Okay, Christopher," she replied softly, as if those words carried a silent trust. "Thank you for everything." As I left the hospital, a wave of clarity settled over me, something I hadn't felt in years. I was no longer just the businessman who relentlessly drove to beat his competition. I had developed a stronger sense of purpose as a result of wanting to have a significant impact on the lives of two people who, unintentionally, had altered my entire perspective on wealth and meaning. As a result of that realization, I strode back to my office with a renewed determination to confront my partner and make things right. A fire burned within me, powered by the understanding that, regardless of the chaos that might come, a new path lay ahead. It was a path built on compassion, connection, and a fierce determination to protect those who mattered most. "Janet," I called, entering the office with an intensity she hadn't seen before, "get the team together. We're going to fight back against this sabotage." My voice rang with a conviction that felt like a promise to myself as much as to her. "Do you want me to arrange a meeting with the board too?" she asked, her face brightening, reflecting the same energy I was feeling. "Yes," I said firmly, "and make sure everyone knows what's at stake. This isn't just about business anymore. It's about defending our integrity." The words came out steady and strong, almost like a mantra I needed to believe in. As I prepared for the confrontation, I couldn't shake the image of Judy in the park, her laughter still echoing in my mind. She had become my new source of motivation, a reminder that there was more at stake here than just financial success. It was about regaining not only my business, but also my humanity. I was resolved to ensure that Shirley and Judy would be safe, cherished, and deeply loved. In a world that felt so chaotic, I had finally found a purpose worth fighting for.